Let's dive straight into this explainer. Today, we're zeroing in on a very specific number, and it's not a million or even 100,000. It's 10,000 pounds. We're going to explore exactly why hitting this figure isn't just, an arbitrary financial goal. It is a massive, literally life-changing psychological tipping point.
Okay, let's look at the roadmap for today. We'll be covering the British savings crisis, escaping survival brain, the magic of 10,000 pounds, the maths of visibility, and then finally, 3 steps to freedom.
Right, on to Section 1, the British savings crisis.
Let's start by actually acknowledging the everyday struggle of the cost of living crisis. This isn't just some news headline. We really need to ground ourselves in the grim statistical reality of UK savings in 2026. Look at this number. Nearly 2 in 5 adults in this country have just 1,000 pounds, or even less, sitting in their savings. I want you to really sit with that for a second. If looking at your account balance makes you wince, understand this right now. You're not the exception. You are absolutely the norm.
And honestly, the situation gets even more severe. 1 in 6 adults has absolutely zero savings, literally nothing at all. This highlights an incredibly precarious situation for a massive portion of the population, and it sets up exactly why we need a huge paradigm shift in how we think about saving.
Which brings us to this really crucial quote from our source. That is not a failure of your character, it is a feature of the current British economy. This completely destigmatizes the struggle, right? I mean, when your rent swallows a third of your take-home pay, when the council tax bill lands like a second rent, and when the weekly shop at Tesco costs what a fortnight used to, the maths was just never designed in your favor. The ground was moving underneath you the whole time.
Moving on to Section 2, Escaping Survival Brain.
We're going to transition from the raw numbers to the actual mental toll of being broke. It is so crucial to understand why that usual just budget better advice completely falls flat when you're living in a constant state of panic. This is all because of survival brain, a state where your cognitive bandwidth is totally consumed by money worries. Think of your mind like a computer with a fixed amount of processing power. When you're living with almost nothing in the bank, an enormous chunk of that processing power is permanently running in the background just worrying about money. You literally can't plan long-term or make good decisions because you're way too busy just trying to survive today.
Without a financial buffer, survival brain completely takes over. Because of this, every small, ordinary inconvenience stops being small. A flat tire? That isn't just an annoyance anymore. It's a full-blown crisis where you have to choose which other bill goes unpaid. A surprise vet bill becomes catastrophic. Even a standard school trip letter coming home in your kid's bag fills you with absolute dread. Life stops handing you problems and only hands you emergencies. You cannot budget your way out of panic. You have to switch the panic off first.
Let's get into Section 3, the magic of 10,000 pounds.
This is where we introduce the exact magical figure needed to finally switch that panic off for good. So, why this specific number? Why not 5,000 or 15,000? Well, there are 3 distinct reasons. First up is the buffer. For the median Briton, £10,000 represents roughly 4 to 6 months of essential living costs. It's the exact amount that quietly puts an end to survival brain. Second is the door. In the 2026 to 2027 tax year, the annual tax-free ISA allowance is £20,000. Having 10 grand means you finally step through the door and become a serious participant in the single most powerful legal tax shelter available to ordinary people.
And the third reason, that's the psychological exit. See, below 10,000, almost every single move you make is reactive. You're paying for the past, clearing overdrafts, recovering from emergencies. But above it, your actual identity shifts. You become proactive. You're suddenly investing in what hasn't happened yet. You prove to yourself that you can delay gratification. The person who knows they can save £10,000 is a confident person. It's someone who negotiates their salary differently, who walks into performance reviews with a spine, and makes braver, calmer life choices.
All right, Section 4, the maths of visibility. Let's shift gears from the psychology of saving to the pure mathematics of how your money finally starts working for you instead of against you. Look at a 5% annual return, which is highly achievable, by the way. On £1,000, that's £50 a year. It's totally invisible. That's a single meal out. But 5% on £10,000, that's £500. That is highly visible. That's a return flight to Europe or a really serious dent in your annual council tax bill. And the best part? You did absolutely nothing to earn it. It stops feeling like deprivation and starts feeling like a machine you own, a machine that quietly makes money on your behalf.
Once that machine is up and running, you realize the ultimate truth about wealth. Real wealth in Britain isn't about owning a yacht, it's simply the ability to say no. This £10,000 milestone means you can walk away from a toxic job, you can start a side hustle or take a calculated risk because suddenly failure is survivable. You can wait for the right house at the right price instead of panic buying. Money has bought you options, and options, my friends, are power.
Okay, final part, Section 5, 3 Steps to Freedom.
So the big question is, how do you actually achieve this milestone in today's super demanding economy? Let's pivot to a practical action plan. Here are your 3 steps. Step 1 is the audit. Now, this isn't some joyless budget. It's an honest look at your spending. Cut the choices that are basically wearing the costume of necessities, like that daily meal deal that's quietly costing you 60 quid a month. Step 2 is automation. Set up a standing order on payday to move a fixed amount straight into savings. You pay your future self first and bypass willpower entirely, because let's face it, willpower is a terrible savings plan. And step 3, widen the gap. Shrink your spending, sure, but actively grow your earning. Ask for that raise, build a new skill, or take on freelance work to turn that 10 grand into 100 grand.
The absolute crucial point here is summarized perfectly by this metaphor. A snowball at the top of a hill needs a push for every single inch. The first 10,000 is, without question, the hardest money you will ever save. It is slow and it's frustrating because you're fighting on 2 fronts at once. You're fighting against your own oldest habits and against a genuinely high-cost country. You literally have to push for every single inch.
But then you hit that magical milestone. The snowball reaches a certain weight, and suddenly the hill is doing the work for you. 10,000 pounds is that exact mass. It's the point where your wealth finally has enough weight to start rolling completely on its own. Once you get to 10,000, everything after it is downhill. The first push is undoubtedly the hardest. So, here's my final question to leave you with today. Are you ready to start rolling your snowball? You now have the roadmap, and you know exactly why this psychological exit changes absolutely everything. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope you're ready to take that very first step toward your own financial freedom.